Hello, everyone. It's me, Walt. One thing you should know about me is I've always had a morbid curiosity when it comes to game overs. The idea of everything ending, of the world becoming an inescapable hellscape for all eternity, of all hope being completely lost. That idea always fascinated me. So today, we are going to determine which Fire Emblem game overs are the best at evoking that feeling based on their music and their visuals. Now, I'm only ranking the game overs, not the death quotes of the lords that come before the game overs, with one exception at the very start, so keep that in mind. Nor am I counting alternate game over conditions, as that would be for another video. So things like the engage alternate condition where you die at the end game and there's like an alternate scene, I'm not going to factor that in. It's just going to be the game over screens themselves. Before we get started, if you enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so your subscription would be highly appreciated. Without further ado, let's begin. The first Fire Emblem game, Dark Dragon and the Blade of Light, easily has the worst game over. The game doesn't even bother saying game over, and immediately asks you if you want to try again. Let me tell you, nothing breaks my immersion more than a game just asking me to try again almost immediately. This doesn't make me feel like all hope is lost, it just feels like I'm playing a video game. The music is also a joke. It doesn't feel like doom and gloom music at all. It just feels like this, oh well, you lost, try again type of music. And this being an NES game isn't an excuse for that, as there are plenty of 8-bit game over songs that invoke tragedy well. All of these factors make Fire Emblem easily the worst game over out of the bunch. Next worst is Gaiden. Everything I said about Fire Emblem 1's game over applies here. The only reason this ranks slightly higher is because at least in the try again text box, there's a little bit more variety since this game has two protagonists, as depending on whether Alm or Silica dies, what's in the text box is slightly different. Next is Mystery of the Emblem. This is where that exception comes in, because in the first two NES games, the "Oh no, the Lord dies" death quote is placed directly in the game over text box, whereas in FE3, it's the first game where they separate it. So if I were to literally just rank the game overs directly, this one would easily be at the bottom, because all this game over is just immediately saying restart from last save. Once again, doesn't even bother saying game over. But it would feel a little silly deducting points just based on where the Lord death quote is placed. But anyway, Mystery of the Emblem's game over has all of the same problems as the previous two entries. The only reason I'm ranking it a little higher is while Book 1's game over is the same as the previous two, Fire Emblem 3's Book 2 game over theme is different. And does sound slightly tragic, so it does barely edge out the previous two entries. Alright, so while I couldn't in good faith rank this game over below the previous three entries for obvious reasons, this game over pisses me off the most. So you get the game over, and first of all, there's no music. They didn't even bother to make a depressing track for this game over. And you could make the argument, well, the lack of music adds the sense of dread and emptiness. And maybe, but then the visual they give us for the game over better be damn good. And this visual, it is so bad, It breaks continuity. It's just all three lords and Violet's weapon lying on the ground, implying everyone's dead. What's the big deal? But here's the problem. I was just fucking fighting Edelgard. Or if you're playing on Crimson Flower, I was just fucking fighting Dimitri and Claude. And this is especially a huge problem is Azar Moon, as the final boss of that route is fucking Edelgard. So if Edelgard is dead, doesn't that mean I succeeded? Ugh. They clearly put no thought to this game over screen. They're like, whatever, this is the Divine Pulse game. People aren't going to see the game over screen much, so don't bother making music for it and just simply imply everyone's dead. I mean, yeah, you could make the argument, I'm looking too deep into this, but as someone who, while I have absolutely nothing against these time travel mechanics, I just personally don't prefer to use things like Divine Pulse. And as someone who plays these games on the highest difficulty, I saw this screen a lot. And after the umpteenth time getting destroyed by Edelgard or her army, these are the kinds of thoughts that would run through my head, and it was infuriating. Fuck this game over screen. Engage's game over screen is the next worst. It's just game over text with no background. They couldn't even bother making it at least a black screen. It's just game over text, and that's it. How lazy can you get? And then it asks me if I want to retry, completely taking me out of the moment. Now, for the more modern entries, one can make the argument it's more convenient this way, so you can just instantly try again. But like, come on, it takes like 5 extra seconds to go back to the title screen and get back into your file. It's not a big deal at all. I would much rather it sacrifice a little bit of convenience so that we can stew in the atmosphere of the game over a bit more. So, yeah, you can't really get any more lazier than this. And like I said, I'm aware of the special game over you get by losing on the final boss, but like I said at the beginning, alternate game overs will not count. I am just ranking the game overs themselves. So, yeah, I'm only ranking this higher than the first 3 entries because those didn't even bother to say game over. Or didn't really bother to say anything. They just said, try again. And the only reason it's higher than 3 houses is, at the very least, there's music, and it doesn't actively piss me off. Still, very lame game over screen. Now, for Awakening, you can argue this game over screen has at least a visual, until you realize that this is just the visual for the file select screen, and there's nothing about it that signifies doom and gloom. The game also immediately doesn't give you a second to breathe before asking you if you want to try again, once again taking me out of the moment. Also, this short harpsichord jingle doesn't make it feel like Grima has shrouded Ulysses in darkness at all. It once again just invokes the darn, oh well, try again feeling. Maybe it's slightly more doom and gloom than Engage's, but not by much in my opinion. Plus, unlike Engage, it at least brings you to a different screen when you get a game over, making it feel more like a legit game over instead of just frickin' pasting text over the screen. So once again, we have a game over screen that almost immediately asks you if you want to try again. Other than that, it's just a black screen with the word game over, but I mean the flower petals falling down is a nice downer touch. And while the piano jingle is short, it definitely invokes more of an all is lost kind of vibe when compared to all the previous game over jingles. But yeah, I just can't bring myself to rank this any higher due to how it almost instantly asks you if you want to restart. Finally, we are at the game over screens that don't instantly ask if you want to restart, letting you actually stew in the doom and gloom. But in terms of what we are stewing in, what the heck is this? We're like in the red dimension? This doesn't really make it feel like Nurgle has taken over the world. It just kind of feels goofy, to be honest. and that goes for the music as well. It almost succeeds invoking that doom and gloom feeling, but there are these two notes right here. Those notes kind of ruin the vibe and make this game over theme feel just a tiny bit goofy. Thus, the theme fails to give me doom and gloom vibes. Binding Blades Game Over is almost exactly the same as the previous entry. The only reason I'm ranking this higher than Blazing Sword is in terms of music, I like Binding Blades music a little bit more than Blazing Sword's music in general. Its sound feels a little bit lighter and a little bit less heavy on like instrumentation. And that simpler, lighter sound is just personally preferable to me when compared to the more heavy instrumentation of FE7. Sacred Stone's Game Over ranks the highest out of the GBA games solely because of its music. The Game Over theme is really good and legitimately gives sorrowful, it's all over, hope is lost kind of vibes. I think this Game Over theme invokes sadness better than the previous two entries because it doesn't rely too heavily on accidentals to give you that dissonant, you messed up kind of tone. It's just a simple harmonic minor key, and it stays within that key to deliver a depressing, empty feel to it, if that makes any sense. We're still just in the goofy red dimension, though, so I can't rank this any higher. Kind of sad that a simple black screen with Game Over on it ranks so high on this list, but honestly, a black screen is less goofy than a red dimension. Plus, the reason this ranks so high is I think the Game Over theme here is really solid in making you feel the weight of your failure. Now, a fun fact about this Game Over screen's music is FE6 and FE7's Game Over themes are actually a sped up remix of this theme. Listen closely. But where this theme works better is while it's more heavy, it's in a way where the instrumentation is unified, and there's not much going on in terms of counter melody or anything like that. The melody is also much simpler and doesn't add extra notes where they don't really feel necessary. This makes each note hit really hard, and it makes you feel the full weight of the fact that there's no hope left for anyone, and child hunts and further atrocities will continue to be committed by the Empire for all eternity. Legit, the Game Over theme was enough to give me nightmares. Well, that combined with a line Lewin says in the second generation Game Over, but unfortunately, per the rules I made, I cannot rank this Game Over any higher because of that. And despite how good the Game Over music is, the visual is still just a simple black screen, so I can't justify ranking it any higher. Next up is Shadow Dragon's Game Over. This music is a more downer, slowed down remix of the ending portion of FE1's Game Over screen. Again, while I found FE1's Game Over theme kind of goofy, I don't know. This slowed down, reverberating harpsichord gives a little bit more of a melancholic feeling. Still, musically, while it's not the worst, it's still certainly not the best either. But I do feel the visual we are given for the game over screen is more important at the end of the day. And we finally have a meaningful visual that makes it seem like the world is doomed and the hero has fallen. Granted, the sword shown, Falchion, you actually don't need that sword to beat the game and it's completely skippable, so this game over screen will lose some points for that. But I do understand that Falchion is the sword synonymous with Marth, so it kinda works. Path of Radiance's game over starts off strong visually with Ragnall in the ground, which beats out the previous entry since Ragnall is a sword that's basically pretty much required to beat the game, and it's also not missable unlike Falchion. However, this music is a bit too heavy-handed for me. It's not necessarily bad music, and it does give off that feeling of doom and gloom, but it's not like heavy-handed like FE4's simple game over melody where you feel the weight of your failure. It just feels like someone's like slamming down on the harpsichord as hard as they possibly can, and it's just a little too distracting for me personally when it comes to just stewing in the doom and gloom. New Mystery of the Emblem actually does something pretty creative with its game over screen. At first, it looks like a regular game over screen, but if you look closely, half of the screen is shrouded in light and the other half is shrouded in shadow, which fits the subtitle of this game, Heroes of Light and Shadow. And I really like how the word over is in the darkness, really making you feel like it's all over and the world is now engulfed in Medus's darkness. Musically, it's the same as Shadow Dragon, so not terrible but not great either. Still, this specific visual makes this one a cut above the rest in my eye. Now we are finally onto the really good game over screens. I really like Radiant Dawns. There's no like goofy red dimension or black screen, just an empty, desolate field with nothing to fill it but a couple of weapons scattered about, a sorrowful harpsichord melody, and dark clouds that will shroud Tellius in darkness as everyone remains a statue forever. I absolutely love just this empty feeling the game over screen gives. You truly feel like there's nothing left and nothing to do but stew in the painful reality that it's all over and there's no hope left.
No, not when we were so close. Forgive me, Celica.
Holy shit! This game over screen, above all others, makes you really feel like you messed up. It directly shows you the consequence of your failure by showing you a freaking graveyard, implying everyone you care about. They're all dead. On top of that, it doesn't bother just saying game over, but in this case, it's a good thing. Because what it says instead is the end, as in this is where the story stops. There's nothing more. It's all over. And on top of all that, there's a myriad of famous war quotes that change every time you get a game over, adding some actual variety to the game overs, which is super cool. That, on top of a more melancholic, depressing remix of the game's main motif as the theme, this game over does an excellent job in making you feel the weight of your failure and directly showing you the dismal consequences of that failure, perfectly invoking feelings of dread, hopelessness, and utter defeat. And I also want to mention, on top of all this is a turn wheel game where you can rewind time, yet they still put this much effort into the game over screen. So Three Houses and Engage have absolutely no excuse. Anyway, what could possibly beat this one? Well, there's only one left. If you've been watching the video, you know which one it is. This game over, oh my god. It not only feels empty, but it feels hollow, with music that sounds haunted, as if the voices of those who are perished are singing out in sorrow that you let them down. With a very small circular image of Leaf Sword in the ground, just to rub in your failure. But the best part is, it doesn't even say game over. It says Finn. Why is this so effective, you may ask? Well, in a lot of the other Fire Emblem games, after the credits, you actually get the word Finn, too. So this word has always signified the end of the game in this series. So the fact that this word is here, after you lose, it really just signifies that it is truly all over. There's truly nothing left. And considering how hard Thracia is, this could genuinely be true, as the umpteenth time you get a game over, a lot of people just give up and never finish it. This game over screen alone has legitimately given me serious nightmares. It, above all the other game over screens, just signifies utter eternal darkness with no hope and just nothing left. I would literally wake up screaming and take a sigh of relief that I was still alive and within the physical world, and that things still existed. It's kind of weird if you think about it too, considering this game is just supposed to be a side story to genealogy, but honestly, to the characters of this game, after they all struggled so much, the utter despair and emptiness feels more than appropriate. This truly is the best Fire Emblem game over screen. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider subscribing. Like I said, I would like to reach 1,000 subs before the end of the year, so your subscription would mean a lot. Have a good night, everyone.